Hello friends, welcome back. I'm Beth, here to help you fulfill your potential in meditation. As most of you know, I don't have just one method that I teach to everybody, like one size fits all. Instead, I much prefer to teach people one-on-one. And the reason is that you're all different. So please use these videos as a guideline. And if there's anything that isn't quite working for you or anything that doesn't quite fit, then be in touch and I'll be more than happy to discuss those things with you one-on-one. Today's video is about developing the characteristic of asubha or repulsiveness in our Vipassana practice. Now, as we know, whenever we are practicing Vipassana, we are focused on the momentary arising and passing away of ultimate reality. And as we sustain our attention on that momentary arising and passing away of ultimate reality, we want to be contemplating the three characteristics of anicca, dukkha, anatta. Impermanent, suffering, and non-self. But there is a fourth characteristic that we can bring to mind also to deepen our Vipassana practice, and that is the characteristic of asubha. Now usually we translate asubha as repulsiveness in English, but it's important to understand that when we say repulsiveness, we don't mean that we are in an aversive relationship to ultimate reality. We don't mean that we hate it or we're disgusted by it. There's no kind of aversion there. Instead, we are fully accepting or fully embracing its repulsive nature. So, how do we go about developing this characteristic in practice? Well, one method that we can use is a really handy little framework that we find in the Pali text called the toes. So what does that mean? Well, in Pali grammar, toe is a suffix that we add to the end of a Pali word to turn it into an adjective. So in the Pali text we find 9 what we could call asubha toes. These are 9 words which all mean asubha. They're all different descriptors for that characteristic of repulsiveness. To make this a little bit more clear, let's take a couple of examples. One example would be patikulato. Patikulato means unpleasant. So instead of just contemplating as repulsive, we can contemplate as patikulato, unpleasant, not the grounds for my clinging or my craving. Another example would be asuchito. Asuchito means impure. So as we are contemplating the arising and passing away of ultimate reality, instead of just contemplating as repulsive, we can contemplate as asuchito, impure. Now, as I said, there are 9 of these asubha toes in the Pali texts, 9 different ways that we can see this quality of asubha. And I'm not going to go into all of them now. Instead, I'll put that information on my website. For now, I just want to say a little bit about how we work with these in practice. And most importantly, that when we are contemplating these different ways of seeing asubha, that we don't do it superficially. Instead, we want to take each toe at a time and we want to stay with it until it becomes an absorption, until we are fully immersed in that characteristic. When we practice in that way, this characteristic of asubha, of repulsiveness, can become well developed in our wisdom, and it can become a very powerful force to help us disenchant from this momentary arising and passing away of nama rupa, of ultimate reality. So that's what I have to say today about developing this characteristic of asubha, repulsiveness, in our Vipassana practice. If there's anything that's unclear to you, anything you're unsure of, then be in touch with me and I'll be more than happy to discuss those things with you one-on-one. But now is the time to get off of those screens, get onto the cushions and actually do the practice. There's a remainderless ending of all suffering, so let's not waste time, let's actually do the practice. As most of you know, I do all of my work on a donation basis, so I encourage you to support me either through Patreon or through my website so that I can continue to make these videos. Thank you so much for your support. Wishing you the best with your meditation.